negative punishment. So we can use these to manipulate people's behaviors and hopefully get them to do a lot of good things and not do a lot of bad things. Now, of course, in the workplace, we want to use the reinforcement stuff as much as possible. I mean, like 99% of the time, you want to try to use rewards, not punishers. That's really a last-ditch effort. But there is a time and a place in the organization for the use of punishment. Performance appraisal time when people are doing something that's a violation of workplace rules, doing something dangerous, something illegal, whatever it may be. You have to, give them, you have to write them up. You have to put stuff in the personnel file. You have to suspend them. You have to fire them. Those are all punishments. Now, we don't want to use those if possible. People respond more to kindness than they do, a fist to the head here. But if you have to use punishment, so be it. But most of the time, we want to find a way to use reinforcers, if at all possible. That should be our default setting every single time. Now, let's go back. Let's talk about then presenting those rewards, presenting those reinforcers, whatever they are, whatever we're using. To basically send a message to people, hey, what you did just now, I like it. Good job, keep it up. How often do we give these things? Depends. We could use what's referred to as a continuous schedule of reinforcement. And basically with that, whatever the desirable behavior is, we give them a treat each and every single time it occurs. Every time, without fail. Now, when somebody is learning something brand new for the first time, this is a good strategy to employ. But after a while, you want to shift over to a partial schedule of reinforcement. We'll talk about that on the next couple slides. So with a continuous schedule of reinforcement, let's say my children, one of them, when they're really young, back in the day when they were really young, I'm trying to teach them their manners. So I want them to say please and thank you at the appropriate time. When somebody does something nice for them, when somebody gives them a gift, when someone gives them a compliment, whatever it is, I want them to say thank you. Or if they're asking for something, oh, can I have that, please? I want them to use those two phrases, please and thank you. So as I'm trying to teach them the importance of this, every time they use the phrases please or thank you in the appropriate context, and I don't want them just blurting it out in the middle of the day here, but there has to be the right social situation where the opportunity presents itself. When they do that, then I give them an M&M. They love M&M. So every time they do the right thing at the right time, hey, great job. Here's a piece of candy. Keep it M&M. They gobble it down. And they love M&M. So every time they do the right thing at the right treat here. So every single time they say please or thank you at the appropriate moment, then they get a piece of candy as a reward without fail, every single time. That's a continuous schedule of reinforcement. The thing is, we want to keep people on their toes. We want to keep them guessing a little bit more than that. And after a while, a number of things happen. They get sick of it after a while. They start asking for, well, instead of one piece of candy, give me 2 pieces of candy, those sorts of things. So we're going to shift over to a partial schedule of reinforcement. And there are 2 different types of schedules we can use, ratio schedules or interval schedules. So we'll talk about the ratio schedules first. When you hear the word ratio, think number, think counting. That's a ratio schedule. Now, there is a fixed ratio schedule and a variable ratio schedule. Fixed ratio schedule, I set the threshold at, let's say, 5. So an FR5, shorthand, fixed ratio of 5. What does that mean? When my son or daughter says please or thank you in the appropriate context, first time, all right, good job, keep it up. They're holding out their hand, hey, where's my M&M? Not yet. Keep going. Another opportunity presents itself. Please or thank you. That's 2. Where's my M&M? Not yet. Keep going. Please or thank you. Please or thank you. Please or thank you. Now 5, that's the magic number. Hey, terrific job. I'm proud of you. Here's your M&M. And then we restart again at 0. Please or thank you. Nothing. Please or thank you. Nope. Nope. 5. Ah, 5's the magic number. Fixed ratio of 5. Here you go. Here's your M&M. Good job. Now we can set that wherever we want. It could be after 3. Could be after 7. It could be after 100. It's completely up to you. You have to use your judgment as to what is most effective. But regardless, that number stays fixed. It's set in stone. So if we set our fixed ratio at 5, then it's always after every 5 times that behavior occurs. Now you can guess what a variable ratio is, I assume. That number now does change. So they say please or thank you. Nope. Please or thank you. Not yet. Please or thank you. Hey, good job. Here's your M&M. So it was at 3. We start all over. Please or thank you. Please or thank you. Please or thank you. Where's my M&M? I changed up the rules a little bit. Keep going. Please or thank you. Hey, good job. Here's your M&M. I'm proud of you. Start all over at 0. Please or thank you. Please or thank you. Good job. Here's your M&M. Oh my gosh. 5, 4, 2, 3. It's all over the place. That number keeps changing. You're right. That's a variable schedule, a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement. That number, that threshold keeps changing. And that really keeps them on their toes. And hopefully they get to the point where they're ignoring the counts and ignoring the rewards, and they're just doing it because they know that's the right thing to do. That's the right behavior in that context. And it becomes natural. It almost becomes a reflex. So if I have you, I hire you to stuff envelopes for me. We're mailing out things to, students on campus. And I'm going to pay you $50 for every 100 envelopes you stuff. Now, you may be able to knock out 100 envelopes in 10 minutes. It may take you 10 hours. It may take you 10 days. Doesn't matter to me. Once you hit that magic number of 100 envelopes, ka-ching, good job, here's your $50. And we start all over. Start stuffing envelopes again. Number 1, number 2, 3, 5, 10, 20. Dr. Topper, I'm tired. I'm going to go home for that. That's fine. You haven't hit that 100 yet, so no money until I see it. So next day you come in, you stop at 99. Oh, Dr. Topper, I'm really close. Can I have my money? Nope. It's at 100. That's 99. 99 is not 100. When you hit 100, you get your $50. Come in the next day, you do that one last envelope. Hey, great job. Here you go. Here's your $50. That's a fixed ratio schedule of reinforcement. Slot machine works on a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement. You pull the arm on the slot machine, which a lot of them, they don't have arms anymore. They just have buttons you press so you can lose your money a lot faster here. A slot machine, you never know when the jackpot's going to hit. You could be sitting down, you play it once, and hey, you'll win $10,000. You may sit at that machine and play for hours, and you keep pressing the button, you keep putting in your quarters. Nothing. Depends. I mean, if it was consistent, we'd know exactly when the payout was. So let's say it was a fixed ratio of 50. After every 50 turns, it pays out. So I could go down to the casino and, watch people playing the slots. And, I see this little old lady, she's, playing, pumping her money into the thing. 47, 48, 49. After 49, I hip check her out of the way, put my quarter in, get my jackpot. Yay, I'm a winner. Okay, here, you can have your machine back. And it starts all over for her. Well, it doesn't work like that. It's a variable ratio payout schedule. You never know when that jackpot is going to hit. So those are ratio schedules of reinforcement. Now we could also give that reward, present that treat on an interval schedule. What does interval mean? Time. When you hear interval, think clock. So we have a fixed interval and a variable interval. I think I have a good idea of what those are all about. Same thing with my kids. I'm trying to teach them manners, to say please, thank you. What I'm going to do with a fixed interval schedule is, let's say I set it at 30. So shorthand would be FI of 30, a fixed interval of 30. What does that mean? After 30 minutes have passed, I'm now going to pay attention. I'm really going to focus in. I'm really going to look and wait for that opportunity to present itself when they can say please and or thank you in the appropriate context. So maybe within the first 5-10 minutes, somebody does something nice for them. They say, oh, thank you. Okay, that's great. That's good. Not yet. So they do it again. 20 minutes have passed. Nope, not yet. After 30 minutes have passed, an alarm goes off, and now I'm like, okay, now I'm watching you. Now I'm paying attention. And the next time you do it, you get your M&M. You get your treat. Now, it could happen right away. There may be a considerable time lapse. I mean, it could be the end of the night. They go to sleep. Okay, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours later, they wake up in the morning. Maybe the opportunity presents itself. As long as that half hour passed, I ignore whatever happens in that half hour. Once we reach that threshold, in this case, 30 minutes, now I'm watching like a hawk. And the next time that desirable behavior happens, great job, I'm proud of you. Here's your M&M. Variable interval, well, this one should be easy, I guess. The time changes. So maybe after 10 minutes, I ignore all the pleases, all the thank yous, and after 10 minutes, now I'm watching. And it may happen right away. It may take a little while. It doesn't matter. Whatever the next occurrence is, that's what I'm rewarding for. And then once that happens, we reset the clock, except this time, maybe I'll make it 45 minutes. So I'm ignoring whatever happens for 45 minutes. I hope they still keep using their manners, but I'm not going to reward for that. Not until 45 minutes has elapsed, then alarm goes off. I'm paying attention. Okay, the very next one, that's the one that gets the treat. So once they do it, I give them their payout. I give them their reward. We reset the clock. Now I'm going to set it at 35 minutes. And I ignore everything for 35 minutes, wait for that please or thank you to occur, and then I give them their reward, their treat. So a bus, public transportation, RTA buses, those for the most part operate on a fixed interval schedule. So you're catching the bus one afternoon and you're a couple minutes late to the bus stop. The bus drove by. Oh, that's okay. Another one will be by in 10 minutes. No big deal. So, you wait for the bus, get on then. If you miss that, well, okay, well, another 10 minutes. Another one will come by. It's pretty regular. So if you miss the bus, oh, no, what am I going to do? I wonder if I'll ever see him again. Middle of the day, bus schedule pretty much run in a loop. So you can be pretty sure that, hey, you're not stranded just yet. Another one will be by shortly. And they could circle by every 10 minutes, 20 minutes, hour, who knows? But so long as they maintain their schedule, it's a pretty fixed interval. Now, your cell phone, specifically voicemail messages, operate on a variable time interval. So after this class tonight, you may check your voicemail and you have one message. You may have 5 messages. You may have 20 messages. Who knows? Another 2 hours later, you may have 3. So in terms of, how often does it take you to rack up 10 voicemail messages? Maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. It may take an entire day. And it varies from day to day. Maybe you get more phone calls on the weekend than weekdays. So there, you never know. When you go into your voicemail, I don't know how many are going to be in there. How long has it been? It varies. There's no consistent pattern there. So those are different types of schedules that we can use for our payouts, to give those rewards, to present those reinforcers for behavior that we want people to exhibit and that we want them to keep doing consistently. Social learning theory. was based on the work of Albert Bandura. He was a social psychologist, and he is best known for his famous Bobo studies, B-O-B-O, as in Bobo the Clown. And basically what he did was he had a room, an observation room with all these different toys in it. Cars and trucks and Barbie dolls and, you know, what have you. And one of the things in that room was this blow up, this 5-foot tall inflatable clown. And he had kids watch adults first go in that room. And the adults would go in the room and they'd play with the toys, they'd play with the Barbies, they'd play with the Hot Wheels, the G.I. Joes, everything. And some of the adults would go over to that Bobo doll and they would punch it. They would throw it against the wall. They would kick it. They would do all these crazy things with this innocent little inflatable. And after a little while has passed, Bandura would say, okay, adults out of the room. Now, kids, you can go in. You can play. What he found was that a lot of the kids would imitate what they just saw the adults doing previously, especially with that Bobo doll. So when adults were mean to it, the kids would then go in the room and they would punch it, they would kick it, they would throw it around. When adults were nice to it, the kids acted nice toward it and, you know, bring it over, you know, kind of have a tea party with it, whatever. And it was really interesting seeing the influence that observation has on people, especially young people. And the phrase here is monkey see, monkey do. So thinking about this, how we can use this to teach somebody how to do something, especially something new, something different that they've never done before. If we have somebody, we'll call them a model because they're going to model the desired behavior. They do something, everyone else stands back and watches. And then when the time comes, okay, all of you observers, now you go try it yourself. You just watched it. You just paid attention. Now let's see how you do. Let's see what you learned. That's social learning theory. So what do we do with social learning theory? How do we put this into practice? Well, first I need you to pay attention. So maybe I'm teaching you in a car how to like change a tire, let's say, or how to swap out spark plugs. Sometimes we're doing some sort of maintenance on an automobile. So we're all gathered around the car. I say, okay, class, watch me. Pay attention to what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to be doing my little shtick here. Maybe I'm talking aloud. Okay, well, you have to disconnect this first. And you need a 3/8 socket for this and what that sort of thing. So you're really, focused in on the details here. And all you're doing is just watching. And as you're watching in step 2, you're trying to commit this to memory. Okay, let's say you did that first, and then you took this off, and you set that over here, and you disconnected. Okay, good. Then you're kind of making it your own, because you're going to be asked to do this sometime soon, so you better learn quickly. So you're paying attention. You're retaining this in your memory. Then the moment comes where I put everything back. I'm like, okay, who wants to volunteer? Who wants to swap out these spark plugs, or who wants to take this battery out, disconnect the battery, whatever it may be. You jump in there, get your hands dirty. You're doing it. Maybe I'm giving you a little help. Maybe not. Maybe I'm saying, oh, wait a minute. Before you do that, is there something you need to do first? Let me think. What did you do again? What did you unhook, or what did you? Oh, that's right. No, I got to take this, unscrew this part over here. Okay, got it. That sort of thing. When all's said and done, I will most likely give you feedback. Hey, good job. Remember, next time you have to do this, or test this, or check this, or don't lose this. Don't set this over here. Okay, great. Now you got it. I say, hey, great job today. You get an A. You get a gold star. Or, you know what, class, you did such a great job that, hey, let's not have class tomorrow. Let's have a free day. I'm proud of all of you. That sort of thing. So we reinforce what they did. Hey, they paid attention. They tried their best. I'm happy. Let's, give them a treat. Let's give them a reward. Let's send that message. Let's emphasize that, hey, you did good. Keep it up. That's how you use social learning theory in a training context. And there are some things, especially with tacit knowledge, that we have to use social learning for. I can't really explain it to you. Here, just watch me do this, commit it to memory, and then you're going to practice it when I'm done. So that's how we use Bandura's theory to teach something that is maybe a little more hands-on. The key with social learning theory is we need people to imitate us. We need them to replicate what it is we just did. So how do we do that? How do we encourage that or create a training environment where imitation is more likely? Here's some suggestions right here for you. So the more of these things that you check off here, the more of these things you do, the more likely you'll be with social learning theory and teaching something new to somebody else. Goal setting theory. All of us are familiar with this. We've all set different goals for ourselves. Goal setting theory assumes that behavior results from your conscious needs, your conscious desires, your conscious intentions. This is very cognitive in nature. So whereas Skinner with that operant learning stuff, it was more like, oh, we're primitive animals and we're just responding to any little treats that people are giving us. Here, you got to put a little more brain power into this. You have to think this stuff through and plan your goals and chart out the path that you're going to take to achieve those goals. And there are different things that we can do to enhance the likelihood that this is going to be successful. If you announce your goal to other people, if you write it down, that sort of thing. If you make it public, it's we tend to stick to goals a little bit more. So not only, is that a constant reminder for me what my goal is, maybe it's to quit smoking, lose weight, get better grades, whatever it is, but by mentioning it to other people, they're also going to keep me honest. They're going to keep tabs on me. So maybe I'm trying to quit smoking and we're at a party, we're at a bar and I sneak out and light a cigarette and you come on, you're like, oh, well, wait a minute. I thought you said you're trying to quit smoking. What are you doing? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I wasn't thinking, or I thought I could get away with that sort of thing. Also BS type statements like, oh, do your best. Don't do that. That's too wishy-washy. That doesn't work. You want to be very specific in outlining your goals and how you're going to achieve those goals. So just something like do your best. Then with cognitive dissonance, we can justify that, hey, I wanted to lose weight. I'm going to do my best. At the end of the year, I lose a half a pound. Yay me. Or in school, I'm going to do my best and you get straight C's. Yay me. Come on. Set the bar a little bit higher, push yourself a little bit more, and plot out how you're going to achieve that goal. That's what this is all about. That's how we use goal setting theory effectively. The importance of goals in all of this. Goals influence our behavior by doing a number of different things. First, we develop strategies for goal attainment. So let's say my goal is to lose weight. How am I going to lose weight? I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to eat less. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to get some sort of surgery. I'm going to take some sort of weight loss supplement. All these different things that I can do. How am I going to do it? How am I going to measure it? How am I going to know if I'm succeeding or not? Those types of things. So it focuses us, directs our attention, directs our energy toward that goal. And as we get feedback, as we measure ourselves, maybe I'm stepping on a scale every week. Hey, am I achieving my goal? Am I not? Maybe going to the gym a half hour once a week isn't cutting it. So maybe I have to go a half hour every day or an hour every day. Or maybe if I go to the gym and wash it down with a couple Big Macs, that's not helping me. So maybe I also have to eat healthier. So we're always revising our strategies for achieving that goal, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. And the toughest part, maybe with goal setting theory, is sustaining effort over time. I talked about this the other night in my 321 class with any of you who are athletes, and my kids are both athletes. And there are times where you don't feel like waking up at 5 o'clock to go work out. Or there are times where you feel that, I just wish I could eat some junk food right now. I don't want to keep eating fruits and vegetables, stuff, whatever. And you got to push through that. It's tough because you're going to have off days. You're going to have down days. Same with school. There are going to be days where, hey, I don't feel like studying. I don't feel like going to class, but you got to push through. You got to try to overcome that somehow because you may regret it if you don't. New Year's resolutions. Very easy to make New Year's resolutions. I'm sure a lot of you have done that at one time or another in your life. That, boy, that's, how easy it is to come up with, whatever improvement to our lives we want to make. But the thing is, how are you doing come January 15th, January 25th, February 15th? How's that goal working out for you? You still sticking with it or not? And a lot of people, if you're like me, by January 2nd, well, I'm off there, so much for that. Better luck next year. So to stick with it is really the most difficult part of goal setting theory, especially when faced with any sort of adversity. With goals, then, we want them to be specific. So I'm not just going to lose weight. I'm trying to lose 15 pounds. Measurable. How am I going to know I lost 15 pounds? I'm going to weigh myself once a week, once every other week, pick a time frame there. Maybe I'm going to measure my waist. I'm going to get a tape measure, or I'm going to measure tape, or I'm going to see if I can fit into, my jeans from 1985 or whatever it is. That's how I'm going to know if I achieved my goal or not. It's got to be attainable. It shouldn't be impossible. It should be challenging, but it shouldn't be so far out of reach that's like, oh, come on, you're never going to achieve. I mean, geez, oh man, you might as well say you're going to, fly around the building here if, we're picking something impossible, living in fantasy land here. So it's got to be something that you're like, you know what, that's doable. I can pull this off. Sometimes that A stands for aligned with organizational goals because we're talking about the workplace. Well, whatever it is that I'm teaching you, it should benefit the organization. I'm not teaching you teamwork skills if you don't do any sort of team-based work whatsoever. Waste of time, waste of money. So it should align with the organization's mission, vision, values, and strategy and all that stuff. Should be results-oriented. So we have some end state, some good state of affairs in mind that this is the finish line. This is what it looks like. And then finally, it should be time-bound. So I'm trying to lose 15 pounds by July 1st or by the end of the year or whatever it is. Have a time frame, no matter how narrow or how wide. And as I already mentioned, you should give or get feedback, depending on if you're the trainer or the trainee, that keeps you on track, it keeps you motivated, and it allows you to make adjustments. So if I'm trying to lose weight and I weigh myself every single weekend and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm only losing like half a pound at a time, I'm not going to make it here. Okay, I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to make some tweaks or adjustments to try to lose weight at a faster pace. Or maybe after a month, I've already lost 12 pounds. I'm like, oh, forget the 15 pounds. I'm going to try for 20 now. So you could readjust your goals that way as well. And you create sub goals all along the way, steps on the pathway toward that final goal, whatever it is. Feedback is important. Imagine if I never gave you a grade for your discussion boards or your midterm exam or your final exam or your training project until after the semester ended. How would that make you feel? You probably wouldn't like it too much. So it's important to get feedback to know where you stand, how you're doing, and what adjustments, if any, you need to make. So maybe you adopted a particular strategy for studying for the midterm exam. You get a good grade. Hey, terrific. I'm going to do that for the final exam. You get a bad grade. Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to try something different for the final exam then. So feedback is really a critical piece of this puzzle here. Maslow's needs hierarchy. So here, people are motivated by specific physiological and psychological needs. They try to attain these needs, and that is what guides their behavior. Now, these needs shown on this pyramid, these are critical to our success as human beings, as a human species. So if we don't eat, if we don't drink, if we don't reproduce and have children and grandchildren, so on and so forth, we're going to die out just like the dinosaurs. There aren't going to be too many of us around for future generations. So we need to do these things at the lower levels just to stay alive as a human species. Then as we get more toward the top of this pyramid, we get into safety needs, so financial safety, personal safety, moving up further, love and belonging needs, moving up further still, esteem, ego needs, and then finally at the very top of that pyramid, self-actualization. Maslow argued that as human beings, we put blinders on. And we focus all of our attention at the bottom of that pyramid. So right now it's almost 7 o'clock and your stomach may be rumbling. You're like, boy, I can't wait to take a break so I can grab a candy bar or get something to eat real quick. Okay, so right now you're focused on your basic, your primitive physiological needs. Maybe you ate before this class and you're not really hungry and you're not worrying about this other stuff. Okay, maybe you move up to safety. Oh, did I lock my car? Is my front door locked? I'm in here all by myself in the back room here. I better check the door to make sure I locked it or that I latched it. Okay, if you know you did that, then maybe you're moving up to the next level of the pyramid. That, oh, you know, my friend, they have a birthday coming up. I got to get them a gift. Let me jot down some ideas while I'm taking in the Zoom call here. But then, oh boy, my stomach is rumbling. I'm kind of hungry. I'm going to go grab a snack. So now we go back down to the bottom of that pyramid and start all over. Start our climb toward the top. And we get to a level, we get distracted. We go down the pyramid, take care of that, and then we start our climb all over again. Maslow argues this is how we behave, how we're motivated as humans, to seek out satisfaction of these different needs. More physiological at the bottom, more psychological at the top. Now, some people look at this and say that's a bunch of garbage. That doesn't really make sense. And I partially agree with you, to be honest. But I guess I could see how this might apply to organizational settings. Now, this is more of a general, you know, a basic psychological model here. But if we were to apply it to the workplace, here's how we might do that. So at the physiological level, your pay, if you have a cafeteria on site, if there are snack machines, having restrooms nearby, that sort of thing, that satisfies those basic, those primitive physiological needs. In terms of safety and security, having a retirement plan, some sort of 401k, your benefits, maybe you have a key card access or there's a security gate you have to go through to get in, those sorts of, okay, that satisfies that. Social needs, love and belonging, your friendships and being able to go out to lunch with your teammates, all of those things. Esteem, ego, different plaques and trophies and celebrations in honor of your accomplishments. And then finally, self-actualization. This is sort of like being the best human being you can be and, you know, practicing autonomy and responsibility and creativity and all of those things, giving back to your community and being the absolute best human being and leveraging your talents, your gifts as much as possible in this world. That's self-actualization. And Maslow argues that, well, because we're too busy screwing around at the lower levels of that pyramid, rarely do we get a chance to even practice that stuff at the very top, which is somewhat unfortunate, I suppose. So that's needs hierarchy theory. Let's talk about McClellan's learned needs theory, and then we'll take a break here. This is much more psychological, as you can see here. So focusing more near the top of Maslow's hierarchy there. McClellan argued that there are three basic psychological needs that all of us attempt to satisfy. And that's what motivates us. That's what drives our behavior. So each one of these three, view these on a continuum. Just like with personality, there's a low end, a high end, and shades of gray in between. So need for achievement, I'm more on the high end of that one, if you were to test me on this. So need for achievement, you're the kind of person who is very driven, very go, go, go. You challenge yourself, you push others, you take risks, you like assuming responsibility for, getting things done. There's that internal locus of control thing there, that you're a go-getter. You really push yourself to achieve good things. Now, with need for achievement, if you're on the high end, again, because I'm like that, so I can relate to you pretty well. Maybe after class tonight, a few of us, we're going to meet up. Maybe we're going to go to the rec center and we're going to shoot some hoops. We're just going to toss the ball around, take some shots. No big deal. Maybe we'll play a pickup game, 3-on-3, let's say. But just for fun. We're not keeping score. No, you're keeping score. You know who's winning and who's losing. You know how many shots you've taken, how many have gone in, how many are 2-pointers, how many are 3-pointers. That's just how you're wired. We're playing a charity softball game. Hey, it's just for fun. No big deal. Not to you. You slide into bases, you're sliding in hard. Spikes high, taking out that person's legs. Hey, I'm in this to win it. I'm not doing anything for fun. I'm not doing it. No. Why waste my time? That's just how you are. No big deal. There's no judgment. Some people are on the low end. They're not that competitive. They don't have that fire in their belly, and that's okay. So some of the high need for achievement, let's say at the end of the semester, I post your grades. So I list all of your grades by your CSU ID number. And after the semester ends, there's a knock at my door. And you come in and say, oh, Dr. Toper, hey, thanks. You're the greatest professor in the world, blah, blah, blah. All the accolades I always hear. And you ask me, well, Doctor, I was just wondering, how did I do in this class? I'm like, what do you mean, how did you do in this class? Grades are posted. Didn't you see your grade? So, well, yeah, I saw that. I got an A in the class, but I saw that 5 other people got an A in the class. I was just kind of curious, which one of us got the highest A? Now, some of you might laugh at that, thinking, well, that's ridiculous. But there are people like that, and I'm one of them. So I look at the points. I'm like, there was one person who finished ahead of you. And you're like, oh, man, I'm so mad. Oh, I could kick myself. I knew I should have studied harder for that midterm. I might have come in first place. Now, an A is an A. Doesn't matter. If you got the highest A or the lowest A in the class, as long as it's an A, it goes on your transcript as an A. But for people with a high need for achievement, not all A's are created equal. So that's that first one. Second one, need for power. I'm kind of in the middle on this one. I don't mind being a leader, but I also don't mind being a follower if I need to. Need for power. You like to coach, to influence, to persuade. You like being in charge. You like being, the top dog, the head honcho, the big cheese, that sort of thing. Sometimes it could get a little too out of control. With need for achievement, you could really turn into a workaholic in no time flat. With need for power, you could really turn into a tyrant if you're not careful. With need for power, you, like on your mailbox, you don't want to just be known as a number. You want your name on that mailbox. Same with the back of a jersey. You don't want to be known as a number. You want to have your name there so people know who you are. You're more likely to post things online or on social media or write to newspapers or magazines or things like that, your opinion on something. So then somebody looks that up, somebody opens that newspaper and they see your article, your letter to the editor, and you're thinking to yourself, I might have swayed somebody. I might have persuaded somebody to adopt my viewpoint. That's power. You're the kind of person who puts a lot of value in clothing, in jewelry, in the car you drive, that sort of thing. That luxury items have a certain meaning to you, whereas other people, not so much. I always tell a story. Years ago, my sister lived in New York City. Well, she still lives there, but she worked in the fashion industry. And she's in education now, but she worked in fashion. And she worked with all those, all the designers, all the models, all the runway supermodel, all these different people. And I'd hear different stories and things that parties she went to, so on and so forth. And the one year for Christmas, we're opening our presents, and she got me this white T-shirt. And she's like, "Oh, the thread count on it, feel how soft it is. This is imported from Italy and blah, 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 and it's name brand, so-and-so designer." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's nice." We have kind of a joking relationship. And I later find out that this T-shirt costed, a white T-shirt, mind you, like $85 or something. And I joke with her. I'm like, you can go to Walmart and get 3 of these for $10. And she's half offended, but half knew I was screwing around with her. But that's sort of the point, that to some people, the jewelry, the watch you wear, the shoes you wear, that sort of thing, that sends a message of power to people. I can afford this stuff and you can't. As some of you may know, not all credit cards are created equal. There are silver cards, gold cards, diamond cards, platinum cards, Discover, not as nice, I guess, not as elite as maybe an Amex card. So there are kind of classifications of credit cards. And one of them near the top of that list is the Amex Black Card. If any of you have ever handled an Amex Black Card, it's made of metal. It's made of titanium specifically. And it's more of a charge card than a credit card. So a charge card, you have to pay off every month in full. And back in the day, it was very difficult to get one. For one, you had to demonstrate an annual spending of, I think it was $250,000 that you would have to charge. So you bring in all your credit card receipts. Oh, look, all my credit cards add up to $250,000. Can I get your Amex Black Card? If you didn't meet that threshold, you didn't qualify for one. You have to be the richest of the rich. I'm talking like the Dan Gilberts of the world. And with this card, it gave you a number of perks, like a private shopper. If I flew to New York tonight, I'd have someone waiting for me at the airport and show me around their store and help me pick out an anniversary gift for my wife. If I go to a foreign country, there'd be an interpreter waiting for me when I get off the plane. I can rent a private jet, a helicopter, a hovercraft, all these different perks and bonuses and things I get for having this Amex Black Card. Now, why would you want one? Why would you care? Well, maybe at the end of the semester, all of us, we go out to eat, to celebrate. We're done eating. The waiter or waitress comes over and says, "Oh, I got the bill. Who's going to pay for this?" I'm like, "Hey, I got it. I'll take care of this. Don't worry. It's on me." So I pull out my Amex Black Card. I put it down. Maybe they have a metal tray and it makes a ping sound as it, hits it. And as I do that, it's like the heavens open up, the clouds part, rainbows appear, unicorns start flying around, everyone's looking, "Oh my gosh, who is that? Is that a celebrity? Is that someone famous? Wow, who in the world has an Amex Black Card? They gotta be somebody." And I just sit back and I'm like, that felt good. I have one of those and you don't. I'm up here and you're down here. Power. Look at the difference between us. That's what a high need for power does. That's like quenching your thirst. You're working out, you're hot, sweaty, that tall, ice cold glass of water, lemonade. Oh, does that taste so good? So much better. That's what the satisfaction of these different needs, how it feels to you. Finally, need for affiliation. I'm on the lower end of this. I know people who are on the exact opposite end, and that's fine. It's who you are. Need for affiliation. You are very close with people, very intimate with your friendships. You don't just shake hands, you hug people. You don't just thank people for a gift. You handwrite a note. Maybe you're doing some sort of, cutting out different things, hearts and things to decorate it with here. You prefer group activities over individual activities and sports and things like that. It gets to be problematic if you're always worrying what other people are thinking about you, or if you're concerned, like, up to the minute, how many Facebook friends you are, or how many people liked your tweet, or, stuff like that. Again, I'm on the low end, so I don't really get it, but I never really cared for that sort of stuff. Other people seek others' approval or their validation or, what have you. And that's fine. That's, again, how you're wired, so be it. But just know that everyone's different on these various continua. So with need for affiliation, maybe after class tonight, I tell all of you, hey, let's meet up at the library and we're going to study for the midterm. I'm going to give you some pointers and things like that. So some of you who are on the lower end of the continuum, you'll go off to a private room somewhere, close the door, put your back to the door, and you don't know what the heck's going on out there behind you. Whereas those of you with a higher need for affiliation, you put yourself in the middle of all the action. People are walking by, they're seeing you, you're seeing them, you're waving to them, starting little conversations with them. That's just how a lot of us are different from each other. So as a trainer, knowing which buttons to press, what works for you, I can use that. I can leverage that to get you to do what I want you to do in terms of training behaviors or training activities, that sort of thing. That's sort of my reward that I'm giving you. I'm helping satisfy that need in you. You have this, something that you're lacking, that you need more achievement or power, affiliation, whatever it is. Hey, that's the carrot I dangle in front of you. You do this and I'll make that happen. I'll give that to you. So that's McClellan's learned needs theory. So let's take a break. It's about 5 after right now. Let's take about 5 minutes or so. I'm going to get up and stretch here. We'll pick up here. Let me see where the heck we are here. Slide 22. Oh, we're about halfway through. So get up, do what you need to do in about 5 minutes. We'll come back and continue on. Sound good, folks?
Yep.
All right. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Right, let's see here. Okay, folks, how we doing? We ready?
Yep.
All right, what I'm going to do, as you might have noticed there, student gave me a suggestion. I think it's a good one. Halfway through the course, whenever we take these breaks, just to cut my mic and cut my video, and that way you know at a glance that we're kind of on break, and then we'll just kind of, you know, pick up with the sound and the video when I come back here. So that way it makes it easier for you to know where we are. Sometimes I'm sitting here talking to students in the room or what, that you wonder, are we back alive or what's going on here? So whenever you see that, then you know we're kind of on break here. So that'll make it a little easier to paste this for you here. So that's why I decided to do that. I thought that was a great suggestion. So where we left off, we're talking about different learning theories, and these, a lot of times we talk about this with motivation as well, and that's what we're trying to do, is to urge people, to motivate them to, you know, learn, to pay attention and to do these things. So one of the theories that gets a lot of research is expectancy theory, and this one is very, very cognitive in nature. This one involves a lot of trust more than anything else, and a lot of self-belief in terms of what you can do and what, you know, the consequences are going to be for your behaviors. So expectancy theory says that there are three key components that we sort of pay attention to. Expectancy theory is sometimes referred to as VIE theory because of these three parts here: VIE, valence, instrumentality, and expectancy. So expectancy, starting there, is the relationship, the link between your effort and performance. It's similar to self-efficacy. So what you're capable of doing, what you're good at, what you're not so good at. If you work harder, what is that going to mean? How is that going to translate? That's expectancy. Instrumentality is the belief that doing something, performing well, hopefully, in, let's say, a training class, is going to lead to something good, some outcome that is going to benefit you in some way, is going to help you in terms of your career, your pay, promotion, whatever it may be. Valence, then, is the value that you place on those possible outcomes. You know, for some people, getting an A in this class, they're like, I don't really care. It's an elective. You know, just taking it to get 3 more credits, no big deal. Other people are like, oh, I need this to maintain my scholarship or to keep playing my sport, or it's for my major. So it really, the grade really means a lot to me. With valence, everybody, I think I might have used this example in here, but I'm not sure. So I apologize if I have. But valence, different outcomes, different rewards, everybody values them differently. So if I were to, maybe we have some sort of promotion in class that, hey, if you come to class, I'll take attendance every week. And if you have perfect attendance at the end of the semester, I'll give you 2 tickets to a Browns game. And you're like, I don't root for the Browns. I don't follow football. I really don't care. And I'm like, well, yeah, but look at the ticket. Each ticket is $150. And you're like, yeah, I don't care how much they're worth financially. I just don't care to go to a game. So I say, well, how about I give you 2 tickets to Playhouse Square then? I'm like, I don't know if there's really anything there I want to see. I'm not into musicals. I'm not into plays. Or okay, how about if you have perfect attendance, I give you a $50 gift card to Panera or Chipotle or something like that. Oh, now I got your attention. You eat there all the time. That's your favorite restaurant. So yeah, okay, good. Now you're on board with the program. So that's what valence means. Everybody has different reactions to different rewards. So you can't take a one-size-fits-all approach when you're doing training. So with expectancy theory, it's maybe easier to describe it in this way. Effort, you try hard, you practice, you study, whatever it may be, it leads to some performance in a big game, on an exam, what have you. This relationship between those two, that linkage, that's expectancy. So I said there's a lot of trust here. You have to trust me when I say that if you work hard in this class, you're going to do good on your exams and you're going to do good on that training project. If you slack off, you are not going to do well. And a lot of times, with this class and a number of other classes, students are like, oh, this is, I don't have to come to class. There's no mandatory attendance and it's open book and all that. Boy, this is going to be an easy A. I give in any given semester, every single class, 3 to 5 D's and F's. Trust me when I say you have to work to earn a grade. Now, some of you may just get lucky. There have been situations for all of us where effort, maybe we didn't work hard for a class, we didn't study for an exam, whatever it may be, and performance, oh my gosh, I got an A. How in the world did I get an A on that? I must have guessed right. Or the material was easy or whatever it may be. There are also those situations where effort-wise, we bust our butt, we come to class, we read the notes, we read the book, we study, and we still get an F on the exam. Like, wow, what gives? I could have done nothing and gotten an F. That happens. I don't deny that. But in most cases, I would like to believe, and I've seen it as being true, that the more effort, the more work you put in, the greater your performance. And I've seen this, as I said, I coach athletes, youth athletes. I can tell which ones work and which ones don't, because they're either hitting the ball over the fence in a game or they're striking out time and time again during a game. So it's pretty clear who puts forth the effort. Who's getting up, who's taking private lessons with pitching coaches, hitting coaches, fielding coaches, whatever it may be, who's staying late at the gym, coming early at the gym, asking me for more reps and batting practice, things like that. You can tell. So I'd like to think that, hey, the more effort you put in, the greater your performance. So you come to class, you read the notes, read the book. When I post the study guide, go through that. Kind of use that as almost like a practice, like a pre-exam. Go through that, you'll do well on the exam, I promise you. So that's expectancy. I remember there's a story about Larry Bird, great basketball player for the Celtics. Wrote a book years ago talking about growing up in Indiana and, what it took for him to, be the championship athlete he was. And he recounted a story back when he was a kid. He's on, farm in Indiana, and he's, shooting basket after basket, just practicing over and over. And his mom calls him in for dinner. He's like, yeah, Mom, 5 more minutes. And, it's getting late and you can barely see outside. It's so dark now. And he's like, yeah, Mom, 5 more minutes, that sort of thing. And it's like, well, why did you keep doing this and pushing yourself? And you were already so good. Why did you keep, well, but I still want to be better. It's, good is not good enough. I want to be great, and great isn't good enough. I want to be the best. And even though I'm trying to be the best, there's probably someone out there somewhere in the world right now who is working just as hard as I am. And I am going to outwork them. I'm going to out hustle them. So if they are shooting hoops for 2 hours, I'm going to shoot hoops for 2.5 hours. If they're shooting hoops for 3 hours, I'm going to shoot hoops for 3.5 hours. I'm not going to let that be an excuse. And so he used that to push himself, to drive himself. He believed that, hey, if I put forth the effort, if I put in the hard work on the front end, it's going to pay off in terms of my performance, winning big games, winning championships for the Celtics. Now, in terms of your performance, how does that translate into all these different outcomes? What does winning a championship mean to you? Better chance of getting in the Hall of Fame, more money for your autograph, you go down as a legend, that sort of thing. What does it say about your reputation, your financial gains from that day forward, so on and so forth? Some people are, like, I don't really care if we win a championship or not. I know if I win this championship, there's going to be a big payday for me at the end when I jump to another team. Okay, so be it. Some people do it because, hey, I want my kids to see, with all this hard work, how it paid off. I'm doing it for them, that sort of thing. Some people are like, hey, I had a bad injury in high school. The doctor's I can never walk again. I want to prove them wrong. So that's inspiring for whatever it is. All these different outcomes, how do you value those? What does that mean to you? Getting an A on that exam, how does that translate into the grand scheme of things? And then getting an A in this class, what does that mean to you? Imagine the midterm exam. If in terms of your performance on the exam, hey, you got an A on the exam, you got a perfect score on the midterm, but it's only worth 5% of your overall grade. Think how that would impact your effort studying for that thing. Now, on the midterm exam, I tell you it's worth 95% of your grade. I can bet you're going to put forth a lot more effort, at least for that exam, compared to the other exam and the project and the discussion boards and all that stuff, because wow, that's a whole lot of points right there. That's do or die. So if you look at the relationship here, and me as a trainer, me as a coach, I have to make you believe that, hey, if you work hard and put in the work, it's going to show in performance. You're going to be able to tell, and other people are going to be able to tell. And when you perform well, that's going to translate into good things, positive things that you want, that you desire, that other people can only dream of. That's the path I walk you down, and that's how I have to get you to trust in me and believe in me as your coach, as your professor, as your boss, whatever it is, that, hey, just stick with me, just take my advice, and good things will happen for you. I promise. So that's expectancy theory. The last one, adult learning theory. This is based on the work of Malcolm Knowles. Andragogy or Andragogy, I've heard it pronounced both ways. To be honest with you, I'm not sure which one is the correct pronunciation anymore, because so many people have alternated between the two. So Andragogy, I think, is kind of the go-to pronunciation. The idea behind this is, for the longest time, we had a really good understanding of how the brain works, how people learn, how you can teach them, how you can make it stick a little bit more, all of that. But a lot of that research was based on kids. K through 12, look at all the different kids we have access to, that we could give them questionnaires and observe them in the classroom and talk to their teachers and look at their grades, so on and so forth. Oh my gosh, we could learn so much about learning if we just, observe a fifth grade elementary school class and see what kids are doing and how they're retaining this information. That's great. But with 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds in the workplace, that doesn't always translate. It's not the same. So Knowles said, well, adults are different than kids, obviously, a number of different ways, including how they learn and how they use newly acquired knowledge. So this was Knowles' theory of adult learning. And so if you were to ask them, okay, well, how are adults different from kids? Tell me. One, adults need to know why they're learning something. With a kid, you don't have to explain the rationale to them. You just teach them and they absorb it like a sponge. Now with adults, the question is, well, what's in it for me? Why do I need to know this stuff? Tell me, explain it to me. Number two, adults need to be self-directed in their learning. They don't want a lot of micromanaging. They don't want a lot of hand-holding and people breathing down their neck. You can turn them loose and let them do their thing. Three, adults bring more work-related experiences into the learning situation. So I'm training you on something, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, hey, I've done this job for 20 plus years. What can you teach me that I don't already know? Let me tell you what I've learned in 20 years. So you have all these different work experiences already that a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old doesn't have. 4, adults enter a learning experience with a problem-centered approach to learning. So they already have an idea of how they're going to apply this, how this is going to fix something, how this is going to solve a problem they're experiencing in the workplace. And then finally, adults are motivated by both extrinsic and intrinsic motivators. So intrinsically doing something for the sake of doing it, because it makes you feel good, for that sense of accomplishment, that satisfaction you get from doing a job and doing it well. Kids don't really experience that. You have to keep dangling the treats in front of them. You have to keep bribing them with gold stars and candy bars, that sort of thing. Adults, not so much. It still helps to have those things, don't get me wrong, but adults also realize that, hey, learning for the sake of learning is also a good thing. They get it. So that's how adults differ from kids in terms of the way they learn, the way they apply newfound knowledge. So let's transition over to transfer of training. This is really the essence of training. that me as a trainer, if I'm teaching you how to do something, I'm hoping you're going to apply it back on the job. And when we get into chapter 6, it is talking about Kirkpatrick's model of training evaluation. We'll talk about transfer of training a little bit more. But basically, all this means is whatever you learned in the classroom, you are now doing back on the job in the work setting. That's transfer of training. And we obviously want to make this transition from the learning environment, from the classroom to the work environment as seamless, as smooth as possible. Sure, I want you to learn. I want this stuff to stick. So retention. But there are some other important goals I have in mind as a trainer, as a professor. I want to teach you how to think, teach you how to learn. I can't anticipate every possible scenario you're going to encounter in life, on the job, at work, in the classroom, whatever. So I'm going to teach you sort of how to take what I have taught you and generalize it to other situations, other settings, other times and places you may find yourself with a problem. And you think to yourself, well, you know, Dr. Topper didn't teach it to me exactly like this, but what I learned is close enough that I can use that, I can adapt it to solve this issue that I'm dealing with right now. That's generalization. We talk about open skills, closed skills, so on and so forth. Maintenance is where we use the stuff long term. So once you start doing something new that I taught you, it doesn't last a day or a couple days or a week. This lasts a lifetime. This is your new way of doing things. So it's a long-term change in your learning, in your way of doing your job. That's maintenance. So here you can see all these different factors that I have to take into consideration. Who you are as a trainee, in terms of your motivation and your ability. And there's only so much I can do about that. You are who you are. I can't really change you a whole lot. In terms of training design, oh, I have a lot of control over this. This is all in my hands. So I better do a good job with this one. The work environment, maybe I have some control. I can make suggestions. I can look around and say, hey, you know, the way you do things here, I think we should make some tweaks, some modifications. I think it'll make things a little better for you around here. Learning and retention. Yes, I want you to learn this stuff, but I also want you to use it. And I want you to use it in an applied way, in a good way. I want you to adapt what you've learned, apply it to new situations, new problems, and do so long term. So while this learning and retention, that is definitely good, I want a little bit more. I want this stuff over here. And really, that is what we should refer to as transfer of training. How do we enhance transfer? There are different things that we can do as trainers to make this a little better of an experience, a little greater likelihood that transfer is going to occur. One, the climate for transfer, and this is psychological, this is that whole perception thing again, about your coworkers, about your boss, about the work you're doing, all of these different things. It could make or break you. I may be teaching you something and you're like, my boss is never going to let me do this anyway. Or my coworkers, they're idiots. I can't go to them for help or if I have questions or anything. Okay, well, right there, we got a problem. We got some issues here we need to resolve. So we want to have a climate, we want to have an environment, situation where when I send you back to the job, it's like, boy, this is going to be easy. This is going to be no problem. I'm going to have all the support, all these resources, and I'm going to be doing the stuff this new way, new and improved way in no time flat. Error management training. I have to have a heart-to-heart with a number of managers, a number of supervisors to let them know that, hey, I'm teaching you something new. And this something new is going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. You're going to struggle with it. You're going to fumble and bumble your way through some days more than others. And that's okay. Don't get upset with these people. Don't ding them. Don't, write them up. Don't yell at them. Give them a chance to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. When you make mistakes, you learn a lot, believe me. So error management training. So if you screw something up, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, stop. What happened just now? What did you do? What did you do wrong? What should you have done? That's metacognition. Metacognition is thinking about thinking, reflecting back on thinking. So, think back to, when you first learned how to tie your shoes. How did that go? How did you learn? How were you taught? That sort of thing. So there are times where I'm doing training and I watch somebody do something and I'm like, whoop, time out, wait a minute. Let's rewind. Let's go back about 1.5 minutes and walk through this again. You made a mistake somewhere along the way. Let's talk through it and see if we can figure out what that was. I'll do the same thing with sports. We'll run a drill, we'll run a play, and I'm like, well, that's wrong. Okay, wait a minute. Everyone line up again. Let's go through this in slow motion and figure out what we did wrong. And that way we learn from those mistakes and we know not to do it next time. So managers, supervisors, people who are overseeing these trainees who just learned something new have to have patience. And they have to be willing to allow that learning curve to sort of play out and let their employees, they're going to be going a little slower. They're going to be making more mistakes, but in the long run, it's all going to go away and they're going to be firing on all cylinders. They're going to be outstanding employees. But we have to kind of take our lumps on the front end here and make those mistakes and learn from them to get to a better place down the road. Feedback, I've talked about feedback with goals and goal setting. So same thing here. When somebody does something right, somebody does something wrong, get on it immediately. Don't be, especially if something wrong, don't be too critical. Just say, hey, oh, no, made a little boo-boo there. That's okay. We'll fix it. That sort of thing. Be patient, be kind. But people need to know immediately if they're doing something right or if they're doing something wrong, so they keep doing it or stop doing it in the case of doing something wrong. Metacognition, I just talked about, that thinking about thinking, reflecting back on what just happened. So I do that a lot with sports when we're running through plays or drills or whatever, that I'm like, okay, wait a minute, what just happened now? It looked like you went to your left. Why did you go to your left instead of your right? Or why did you come up so quick? Why didn't you stay down a little low? That sort of thing. Oh, well, I thought I thought the defensive guy. Okay, fine. But that didn't happen. Here's how we're doing it. Here's why we're doing it. That sort of thing. Oh, okay, I got it now. So when you, in your mind, that memory, when you rewind the tape, the DVR, about a minute or so, and you walk through what just happened, oh, wait, I see where I went wrong. Okay, right here at this point, now I know for next time, let's do it again. And you learn from that, but you have to kind of relive those mistakes over to learn from them. So sometimes we have to pause and reflect back on what just happened, what was going through our brains at the time. Fidelity, a great way to maximize transfer, to enhance transfer of training, is to have high fidelity. The learning environment, the classroom environment, if we're working, especially with tools, machinery, equipment, what have you, should mimic the work environment. They should look similar, if not identical. The more similar they are, the more likely when you go back to the work environment, it's like, oh, wow, this is exactly like what I just worked on in training. This is easy. This is going to be no problem at all. That's fidelity. Think about fidelity as realism, authenticity. So that's what fidelity is all about. Speaking of that, here I have this. I can show all of you this. Does anybody know, hopefully you can see that okay, what this thing is? Anyone? Yes, Teresa, you're muted.
I couldn't really see it, but it's an EpiPen.
Good. It is here. I'm trying to get it with the camera here and get here. Maybe if I do that. Is that better? Trying not to move here. So yeah, this thing is an EpiPen. Specifically, it's an EpiPen trainer. My daughter has a tree nut allergy. So pecans, cashews, walnuts, whatever, if she ingests any of those, her tongue swells up, her throat swells up, and she could stop breathing. Even if, like those tree nuts, if they touch her skin, she gets these huge, painful welts wherever that the oil from that tree nut touched her skin. So it's obviously a pretty serious issue, life or death issue, whenever she consumes tree nuts. And that's how we first found out she had a tree nut allergy, is when she was eating some brownies with walnuts and she had a hard time breathing. So when those things happen, we have to have an EpiPen nearby. And this EpiPen has medication in it to basically reduce the swelling, get her able to breathe again, at least until we can get her to an emergency room and get her treated by professionals. But long story short, EpiPen will save her life in those situations where she ingests tree nuts and doesn't realize it. Now, she's good. She's old enough now to ask before she eats bakery or cookies, anything like that. Hey, do these have any sort of nuts in them, just in case? And she reads the ingredients on packages to avoid that situation. But hey, you never know. So if she ingests tree nuts, if she can't do it herself, one of us has to give her an injection. And I don't know how good any of you would be at that, how, if you'd be able to handle that or not, but life or death situation, you may be the one to save her life. And if she hands you the EpiPen and says, here, give this to me, you got to know how to inject her with this. So when you buy an EpiPen, it comes with these little trainers. This looks and feels and it is exactly like the EpiPen, except there's no medicine in here. There's no needle. It's a dud. It's a practice. But if I were to leave one of these with a school teacher or somebody who chaperones a field trip, or if, when she was younger with grandma and grandpa, they're like, oh my gosh, I got to give our granddaughter an injection of the leg. How are we going to do that? It's kind of a nerve-wracking experience here. You have this little practice pen, this dud pen that you can work with to practice and train yourself how to give an EpiPen injection. So if and when the situation presents itself, you already feel comfortable doing it. So there are instructions along here how to do this, how to administer this. Basically, you take this little blue cap off and you jam it into the person's leg and you hear a click. You wait for about 5 seconds and then you pull the needle out, and hopefully it then, it came out here, it went, so you know that it was effective. So you can take this practice EpiPen, go through it again and again and again until you feel comfortable giving somebody one of these injections in their leg. And then that way, if and when the time is right that you have to give a real one, you already have a lot of practice. High fidelity. Very high. I mean, if you were to set this down next to a real EpiPen, it would be very hard to tell the two apart. And that's by design. So that's what we mean by fidelity, realism, accuracy between the practice environment, the learning environment, and the actual thing itself, in this case, with training the work environment. You want to provide advanced organizers as much as you can. I gave you the syllabus early. I'll give you a study guide. I give you the notes prior to class. When people go into training, they're a little bit nervous. They're a little skittish, and they think, oh, man, what are we going to learn? Is this going to be too difficult? Am I going to be made to look stupid? Is my job going to be on the line? Oh, man, I don't want to do this. the more that you can give them stuff ahead of time, called advanced organizers, the more that they can go through it, flip through it, become familiar with it, and after a while think, this isn't so bad. Boy, I don't know what I was so nervous about. This is all pretty simple stuff. I can get this. I can do this. So the more that you can give them those previews ahead of time that, hey, here's the book, here are the materials, here are the handouts, here are the slides, whatever, the better. It cuts down that nervousness. It makes them feel a little more at ease. It makes them feel a little more confident in their abilities, more comfortable with what it is that they're about to learn. Obviously, that creates a better learning experience for everybody. A job aid, the more of these you can provide, the better, if at all possible. For your training presentations, you are going to be designing job aids for me. So what is a job aid? It's a very quick, one-page, lot of pictures, very few words of how to do something, to summarize something that you just taught somebody in more detail. So what does a job aid look like? Well, back in the day when I worked at Tri-C, we had all of these different training sessions on emergency procedures. What to do if there's a tornado, what to do if there's a fire, what to do if there's an active shooter, what to do with all these different disasters that could occur. And as part of the training, they gave us this lengthy pamphlet. It's got all these words, a lot of stuff on here. This would take you, quite a little bit of time to read. And if we're in the middle of an emergency situation, I don't want you, digging this out, trying to figure out where this is, looking for the right pair. Okay, where was that thing again? What do I do if there's a tornado? Hold on, I know it's here somewhere. Tick tock, tick tock. Time is of the essence here. So along with this training pamphlet that has all these words in it, they gave us a quick job aid. Now, there's not a lot of pictures you can add to this, but they definitely shortened the wording. And you could see for all these different emergencies how they reduced it, each one just a few bullet points. And the idea was, hey, put this somewhere, pin it on a bulletin board or somewhere near your desk. And if there is any sort of emergency, you're not sure what to do, here's a quick reference guide. Just look at this. Boom, boom. Within a couple seconds, you know exactly what to do. With a job aid, here's one that I have. A nice individual at Steak and Shake gave me one. When I saw these behind the counter, I'm like, hey, can I have one of those? Like, sure, what the heck? So if you ever go to a fast food restaurant, you'll see some of these job aids taped to the wall or to a counter or what. So here for Steak and Shake, showing you how to make these different chili macaroni concoctions, how to make different salads, so on and so forth. A lot of pictures, very few words. So if I'm an employee at Steak and Shake and somebody orders let's see, what do we got? A Chili Mac Supreme. Well, I know the Chili Mac, but what's a Chili Mac Supreme? What's the difference? And I look at this, cheese and onions. That's only different. Boom, I can see right away what goes into that and what the difference is. So this is what a job aid looks like. A lot of pictures, just a few words, maybe identifying what the heck these pictures are. But if somebody is making up these dishes at Steak and Shake, we don't want them going through the training manual, all these pages and so forth. We just want them to look up at a glance, eyeball this, and boom, I know exactly what to do. That is a job aid, so you can imagine how easy that makes transfer from the learning environment to the work environment. Practice. You have to practice if you want to get good at something. I don't care if it's a sport. I don't care if it's a musical instrument. I don't care if it's school. Studying is practice. You need the practice. You need to go through your notes, go through the book, go through the study guide, all that stuff. You need to go through this stuff again and again and again. The more you go over it, better off you'll be when the time comes to perform. With a musical instrument, putting on a concert. Sport, playing in the big game. School, that midterm or that final exam. So practice, encouraging practice, giving opportunities to practice is huge. You may want to encourage communities of practice. Have people team up, partner up, talk about their learning experiences. Those of you who put together small study groups, that's a community of practice where you go through the book, go through the notes, maybe go through the study guide. Okay, number one, what do you think Dr. Topper is looking for here? What do you think he's asking for? That sort of thing. You talk it through and you help each other out and you have each other's backs. You look out for that is a good thing for transfer of training, for helping this stuff stick and helping you apply it from the classroom to the job site. Overlearning. Again, I use a lot of sports examples here. A lot of what you do in athletics depends on overlearning. And with my athletes, with my kids in particular, we go through a lot of drills over and over, hitting a ball off a tee 200 times a day, throwing 100 pitches every day. Oh my gosh, why do I have to keep doing this? This is so tedious. This is so boring. Because I want it to be automatic. It has to be reflexive. Think about a quarterback. As you go from Pee Wee football to middle school to high school to college to the pros, things obviously ramp up in terms of people's strength and speed and their knowledge of the sport of football. So as a quarterback, as the ball's being hiked to you, I want you to be able to, without looking, to be able to feel that football and find those laces, turn the football in such a way that you can get your fingers on the laces immediately. I want you to be able to take your drop steps, your 3-step, your 5-step, even your 7-step without looking down at your feet. I want you to be able to count in your head. I want you to be able to feel it. Because if we're playing at a high level of football, and the ball is hiked to you, and you have to look down at the ball and, okay, figure out where does this finger go? Where does this finger go on the laces? And, let me drop back. 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. Oh, man, you are in trouble. So the more that we can automate that stuff, the better. Because you're reading defenses. You're trying to, hey, are they coming in a blitz? Are they dropping back into coverage? My blocking, my protection. What direction? Do I have a pulling guard? Where are the gaps? A gap, B gap. My running back, are they coming on my left side or right side? Am I rolling out? Who's my, check down? Who's my hot read? Those types of things. As I go through my progressions with my receivers, you got to do all of this in a matter of a couple seconds. So the more that we can make things automatic, where it's a reflex, the better. The more that you have to pause and think in slow motion, you're going to get your head knocked off. Not a good thing. So you have to practice and practice and practice to the point where you almost overlearn it. You can do this stuff in your sleep. You can recite this stuff forwards and backwards. So it becomes, again, an automatic reflex. That's overlearning. Finally, I think these are the last few slides I have, is in terms of presenting the material. How do we go about doing it to facilitate transfer, to facilitate learning, to facilitate application? Let's first talk about the distribution of time. As you're learning something, as you're practicing something, we could do it a couple different ways. We could use massed practice, or we could use spaced practice. Massed practice, all of you I'm sure are familiar with in one way or another, cramming for an exam. Smushing everything, concentrating everything into a small window of time. That's massed practice, or sometimes called massed learning, either one, they're the same thing. So studying for an exam, you have 3 chapters to learn for the exam, and the exam's coming up. So the first day, you don't do anything. Second day, you don't do anything. Third day, now you study all 3 chapters and take the exam the next day. Whew, that's a big ask. I'm telling you right now in this class and any of my classes, don't do that. Don't wait till the last minute to study. Or don't think because it's an open book test, this is going to be fast. Some of you are going to go right up until that 2 hours. I promise you. You are going to be sweating bullets on this thing if you didn't prepare ahead of time. You want to zip through the stuff as quickly as possible That's where that overlearning, practice, all that comes into play. And you don't want to wait till the last second to start studying, because 6 chapters is a heck of a lot of material to study the night before, 2 nights before an exam. And usually when we do that, the performance, the result isn't that good. So if we space things out a little bit, as the joke goes, how do you eat something as big as an elephant? 1 bite at a time. Day 1, we study 1 chapter. Day 2, leading up to the exam, study another chapter. Day 3, study another chapter. Do a quick review right before you take the exam. A lot more comfortable, a lot more relaxing. Chances are you're going to remember that much more information, and you'll probably do better on that exam as a result. Now, when should we use one over another? Is there any recommendation? Yeah, I suppose there is. Shown here in this column, massed practice or massed learning, spaced over here on the far right. And along the left side here, we have 3 different conditions, or 3 different factors we might find ourselves dealing with. First one is complexity. How many moving pieces, parts are there? If I'm teaching you something, are there only 2, 3, 4 things you have to learn? Or are there 2, 3, 4,000 things you have to learn? If there are very few pieces, parts, if it's low, let's say, low complexity, we'll call it, then you could get away with the massed practice. That's okay. Because that should be easy to, if, on the midterm exam, if there are only 3 or 4 things you had to be responsible for, yeah, you could get away with cramming all that in the night before and still do good. It was a quick little quiz, 4-question quiz. That's not bad. This is a 60-item exam covering 6 chapters. Going to be hard to cram all that in the night before. So when there are a lot of moving pieces, parts here, we might want to spread that out. So when complexity is high, spaced practice is recommended. What about the mental requirements in terms of how much brain power you're going to have to use? If it's relatively low, masked is okay. You can get away with that. But if you're really, the smoke's going to be coming out of the ears, so to speak, the gears really have to turn, you might want to spread things out a little bit. So spaced practice is recommended. Finally, in terms of physical requirements, if I'm asking you to do something that is very taxing on your body, in that case, if you are really, your muscles are going to be burning, you're going to be dying, you're going to be out of breath, you're going to be, so parched, you're going to need a drink. If it's that physically exhausting, high physical requirements, then we better space things out. So let's work out for 20 minutes, take 5, work out for another 20, take 5, work out for the last 20. If I'm only asking you to do 1 or 2 things, it's not really going to strain your body too much. You're not really doing a lot of lifting, pulling, climbing, whatever it is. Like, oh, this is nothing. Then we could do it all at once. Easy. Nothing to it. So that's the distribution of time. What about the distribution of the learning content itself? Well, that we could take it 2 different ways as well. I could teach it to you in parts, and we could engage in part practice, or I could teach it to you all at once, and we then practice it all at once. So let's say I'm teaching you something, and there are 3 steps to the process. You've already used part learning or part practice. We would do step 1. Okay, good job, gang. Let's do it again. Practice step 1. Great, keep it all. Let's do it again. Do step 1. Step 1, step 1, step 1. Okay, everyone got it? Feel comfortable? Let's move on to step 2. Then we practice step 2. Then we practice step 2 again. Practice 2 again, 2 again, and 2 again. Once we master that, then we move on to step 3. Practice 3, then 3, then 3, then 3. And then eventually at the end, we'll just put it all together. Whole practice means that we do step 1, step 2, and then step 3. Okay, let's do it again. Step 1, step 2, step 3. All right, one more time. Step 1, 2, 3 in that order, in that exact sequence. Now, what are the recommendations here? Complexity, once again, If it's high in terms of a lot of moving pieces, parts here, then we may need to do it in stages, in parts. So if there are like 500 different parts we have to keep straight in our brain here, okay, let's do this in little bits and pieces. But if the complexity is low, meaning that there are only 2 or 3 things I'm asking you to do here, that's not bad. We could do it all in sequence, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you'll get it. No one will get lost. No one will get confused. Now, if we had to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, there, I may lose a lot of you, so we may have to break it up. But if it's only 3 pieces parts, we're doing them sequence, we can do it whole learning, whole practice, that's fine. Now, organization characteristics, spatial and temporal relationships. What that means is, what I'm teaching you, is it best to teach it to you in the exact order it should be performed? That is step 1, step 2, step 3. So teaching it all at once, you kind of get the sequence and you don't mix it up. So if the relationships, if those temporal relationships, spatial relationships high, then we got to do whole. We have to put all of them together and you have to practice it that way. If it's such, if all the pieces parts are such that, you know what, I can teach you step 3, and then step 1, and then step 2, and then step 5, and then step 4, and at the end we could put it all together and you're not going to be confused, then we could do it as part learning or part practice. And sometimes with sports I do this, I start at the end and work forward. Because, like hitting, okay, well, let's look hitting at your follow through, and now let's work backwards from shoulder to shoulder, swinging the bat. So here's where you end up. Now let's rewind. Let's take it back a step. Now let's take it back another step. I can teach stuff out of order. You're not swinging the bat backwards, but by teaching it that way, you see where you should end up. Now we're going to put it all together and have you swing the bat the right way, and you're going to get it. You're going to see where that bat needs to align all the way through to the end, from one shoulder to the other. So here, again, recommendations for, well, when should I use part learning? When should I use whole? It depends. Answer these 2 questions and that'll guide you toward one solution or the other. So that is it for this chapter. So does anybody have any questions on any of that before I let you go here tonight? Are we good? Yes, no, I hope.
I'm good.
Okay. So real quick, because I'm looking over my notes here in case I missed some of you at the beginning. Discussion board number 1 is graded, so that's done. Discussion board number 2 is live, that is open, so please get into that, open that up and complete that. It's due by end of day Saturday. No late assignments, so get it done. You have tonight, all day Friday, and all day Saturday to do it. By Sunday, it's too late. So get it done before Saturday. As I also said, I'm working on your exam, which also means I'm working on your study guide. So I have a lot more to say about that next week as I finish up more of that this weekend. And that is it. That's all I have. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I hope it was helpful. And as always, if you need anything, contact me at my Yahoo email address, djtoper@yahoo.com. It's at the top of the syllabus. Reach out to me anytime. Some of you already have throughout the week. So I'm glad to help any way I can. All right, folks. Anything else for the good of the order? Or are we done here tonight?
I think we're good.
All right. Then I'll let y'all go.